I'm Steve Francis, CEO of Sidero Labs. Andrew Reinhardt, founder and CTO, and the man behind everything, really. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning. It's very early.
Very early, but we got up early for our European cohorts. Talos has a lot of users over in Europe, so let's kick it off with this session, which is all about Sidero Labs and where we've been, where we came from, and where we're going. Andrew, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Thanks. I recorded mine, so I'm going to play it for everybody now. Let's see.
And welcome to TalosCon 2023. I am Andrew Reinhardt, founder and CTO of Sidero Labs. Ever since 2019, we have been working hard to bring the vision we have in Talos Linux to fruition, and today is the first ever conference we have put together for our community. I am thankful to share this moment with all in attendance today. Going forward, we hope to make this an annual event where users can get together and enjoy some stories, learn something new, and leave inspired to change our system's future. We have a wide range of presentations today, showcasing Talos Linux anywhere from edge to data centers, from home to small and mid-sized businesses, all the way to full-scale enterprise. We'll see how Talos Linux is used by hobbyists, platform teams, as a basis for cloud product offerings, and as a solution to businesses looking to save time and money by running Talos Linux on bare metal. A lot of the folks presenting today have been part of our fast-growing community from very early on, and I am super excited to finally get to show just a small portion of the success stories we hear with the world. Once we have heard from our users, we will announce a new product offering from Sidero Labs that has been in the works for nearly a year now. We believe it is going to change how we think about architecture designs, and it is all thanks to Talos Linux. Before we get into that, I want to quickly share with you what we have accomplished in the last year. On March 29th, 2022, we cut Talos Linux 1.0. Although Talos Linux had been used in production extensively prior, this version was a milestone in that it marked when we finally reached all of the goals we thought were needed in order to build other solutions on top of it. Once Talos Linux 1.0 was released, it seemed as if all kinds of opportunities arose. Very shortly after, we started working with the fine folks at Equinix Metal to get Talos Linux as an officially supported operating system. Today, you can have Talos Linux running on Equinix Metal machines within minutes. Similarly, we also landed Talos Linux in Vultr and ZenLayer as an officially supported operating system. Once we had Talos Linux 1.0, we started to build the next piece of our vision. To that end, we expanded our team and hired some excellent developers and operations engineers who have proven themselves to bring a ton of value to our tight-knit team. I can confidently say that every person on the Sidero Labs team believes in what we are doing. Our community has grown significantly. Our Slack workspace has nearly doubled the amount of members since last year. More importantly, our community can now carry itself. Through troubleshooting, they share projects built around Talos Linux, and they support us in our efforts and help keep the space positive and healthy. Later, we will announce a new SaaS offering that took a significant amount of work to get done over the course of the last 10 months. All the while, we have been working on moving Talos Linux forward. Soon, we will release Talos Linux 1.4. As you can see, our team has been busy. Now I want to get into our roadmap. As I'm sure some of you know, roadmaps are hard. Things change quickly, especially for a startup, and we felt that early on in the company. We are finally in a position where we can set longer-term goals for the year, and I am excited to step through the ones listed here with you today. Security has been at the forefront of everything that we do here at Sidero Labs. In our opinion, security is non-negotiable and should never be an afterthought. We aim to set a standard where a high level of security is table stakes in a product. Talos Linux was built to be secure and already has a high level of security, but we want to give you more. Today, it's not enough to only secure an API. We must secure everything running underneath it. Secure Boot will give users confidence that the intended version of Talos has been booted and not swapped out for a fake. Runtime security will be strengthened with SE Linux, providing a stronger separation between the operating system and workloads. You'd be surprised how many invasive practices are out there in the world, and SE Linux will help protect the operating system from them. The integrity measurement architecture is a technology I have personally been excited about for a number of years. With IMA, we can strengthen the immutability of Talos and work towards offering features that extend that immutability to workloads. With IMA's attestation framework, we can offer the ability to cryptographically certify and attest to every file on the machine. With this stack, Talos Linux will become one of the most secure Linux distributions in existence. One of our largest groups of users are those who run Talos Linux on SBCs, the Raspberry Pi being one of the more famous ones. But there are so many boards out there that the Talos Linux team will never be able to keep up. This year, we plan on breaking out the SBC logic from Talos Linux into a project that makes it easy for our community to create and maintain kernel modules and logic for a given board. Users will simply need to point Talos to the extension for their board. As many of you know, so far we have shipped Talos with a completely static kernel. This means that drivers are running unnecessarily and slowing down Talos Linux. In Talos 1.4, we have implemented dynamic kernel module loading based on the hardware available on a given machine. Over time, this means we can start to run a kernel that is more lean and contains only what is required for the hardware. This aligns better with our philosophy of minimalism. Today, the machine configuration is a monolithic block of YAML that is difficult to manage. Multi-doc YAML will allow us to break this configuration up into logical units that collectively will be equivalent to the format today. For example, imagine being able to maintain a YAML file that defines how ETH0 should be configured and being able to manage that independently from the rest of the configuration. You can mix and match YAML files to create configuration unique to each machine without having to duplicate a lot of the work. Secret material can be stored more securely. Different members of your team can manage configuration in line with their expertise. We believe this will make Talos Linux better and opens the door for many possibilities down the line. One of the first improvements we plan on making with multi-doc YAML is to have a completely reactive pivot 1. Today, some configuration changes require a reboot, some require an upgrade, and some can be applied immediately. This leaves a lot to be desired and causes confusion. We will make Talos Linux smart enough to handle these things automatically when we introduce the new configuration format. Reactive configuration in combination with multi-doc YAML and system extensions means users will be able to extend the functionality of Talos in a way that feels native. Users will be able to integrate their business logic with the operating system in a way that feels like CRDs and operators in Kubernetes. Talos Linux is a natural fit for hostile environments with limited resources. More and more, we are starting to see a pattern with users running Talos Linux in locations such as mines, retail stores, factory floors, and similar environments that have a common set of problems. The first is getting the required images to your edge deployment. In a future version of Talos Linux, we intend on providing a way to seed your cluster with images. One of your Talos machines can have all of the images needed to get bootstrapped quickly and without internet access. In combination with a way to share the images with other machines using a distributed registry, we can provide an extremely efficient and easy way to get up and running on the edge. At the edge, you don't typically have operators on site that have the Linux and Kubernetes expertise needed to maintain a cluster. With WireGuard, we can provide ways to secure access to a machine with only the requirement of having outbound internet on a specific port. When internet is spotty or non-existent, a new interactive console will allow less experienced operators to manage Talos Linux on site. A TUI on the physical console will allow for networking configuration, performance monitoring, and diagnostics to help troubleshoot underlying issues. Although Talos Linux is extremely popular on-premise, using virtual machines and bare metal, it works just as well in the cloud. Being able to burst an on-premise cluster out into the cloud has been an idea we have been advocating for a long time. Unfortunately, the Kubernetes ecosystem is lacking when it comes to hybrid. To be clear, what we mean by hybrid here is a single cluster spanning multiple platforms such as cloud, VMs, bare metal, or SBCs. The fact that you can run the same exact image of Talos Linux nearly anywhere makes it uniquely fit for operating hybrid clusters, and we intend on leveraging that. We already have a head start with an early version of the Talos Cloud Controller Manager. Currently, it can only label a node in order to get it to work with other CCMs. Unfortunately, nearly all CCMs make the assumption that the cluster is entirely within the cloud they represent. The CCMs tend to get in each other's way and make reasoning about the system extremely difficult. By building out a proper CCM for Talos Linux, we can implement it with hybrid in mind and leverage the unique capabilities of an operating system with an API. Load balancing for hybrid workloads is another area we are interested in. This year, we intend on figuring out how to make it easy to get load balancing for hybrid workloads. There are plenty of other Kubernetes management solutions out there, but none make the promise of being able to manage hybrid clusters. With our new SaaS, this is now doable. You can combine EC2 instances, DigitalOcean droplets, Raspberry Pis, Dell hardware, and anywhere else you can run Talos to create a single cluster that spans all of the machines. Networking between the machines is something we solved last year with kubespan. Now, with the hybrid management, we are starting to really move the needle on hybrid clusters. Later, we will hear from our CEO, Steve Francis, about our new SaaS, Omni. But for now, I want to announce the roadmap for Omni for those of you who may already know what it is or have been using it while it was in beta. For those of you who may not know anything about Omni, Omni is our new SaaS that aims to bring homogeneous management to heterogeneous environments. Our vision is to remove a lot of the complexity in running platforms and to do so in a way that makes management feel the same regardless of where the cluster lives. And to our beta users, this year you can look forward to auto-joining machines to a cluster, making auto-scaling possible, cluster backup and restoration for disaster recovery, machine classes to treat a set of machines differently than others, and upgrade policies to manage how and when both Talos Linux and Kubernetes are upgraded. We're also happy to announce that we will be integrating the ability to provision Equinix Metal instances on the fly. No need to manage Equinix Metal resources. Simply ask Omni to do that for you. This is something we plan on offering for other clouds in the future as well. A large portion of our customers and users reside outside of the US. In order to provide Omni closer to locations where users may need it, we will be offering regional Omni deployments later this year. One of the most common things we hear is how users hate to waste resources on dedicated control plane nodes. In bare metal, this means 3 extra machines for every cluster, which can get costly very quick. This year, we will be offering hosted control plane nodes. The only thing users need to bring is machines for their workloads, and the rest is handled by Omni, including load balancing the Kubernetes API. As you can imagine, a lot of the items I spoke about on the roadmap for Talos Linux will have direct consequences within Omni. You can expect to see all of the great features being implemented in Talos Linux find their way into Omni in order to create an exceptional cluster management experience. So that's our roadmap for this year, and I just want to say thank you for coming to TalosCon 2023, and at this time, I'll take questions.
Cool.
Nice. That's exciting stuff. If people want to post questions in the chat, we can see if we can stump Andrew. Otherwise, we can just chat and hang out.
Yeah, I have a set of questions that we typically get around Omni and stuff like that. Hosted control plane is a great idea. Thank you. Yeah. So one of the things that I didn't address in this directly was Sidero Metal, and that comes up very often when we're talking about Omni. Why did we build Omni? Why did we? What's going to happen with Sidero Metal? The answer is that Sidero Metal is going to probably stick around for a while. We have users, we have customers using it. We still believe in the project, and we still believe in the underlying technology to some degree, but we decided to build Omni because we were just running into limitations, let's say, with Cluster API that didn't really allow us to leverage Talos Linux to the fullest extent. So, sorry, I'm just seeing if there's questions popping up, but there's not. So Sidero Metal is going to stay around. So I don't think people need to worry about that too much. So Omni is going to definitely offer similar things. And we intend on making Omni work just as well for bare metal as Sidero Metal does. In fact, one of our goals is to have feature parity with Sidero Metal so that Omni can be used instead of Sidero Metal, but the project will be around, that's for sure.
That's a good question.
Omni is a SaaS. How about self-hosting Omni? Yes. So Omni will be, and already is, being used on premise by users and paying customers. We do allow a license to be able to run it yourself, which I think also answers the other question that we typically get, which is Omni open source? This is not open source. This is our first project that we are not making open source because, well, we need to stay around so that we can build all the cool open source stuff that we do. Are you looking for? Yes, is the short answer. Right now, there is a dependency on being able to authenticate with Auth0, but go ahead, Steve.
That's not true if you're running it on premises, correct?
That's not true if you're running it on premises, but well, to that point, actually, I think that you could even point Omni if you have like GitHub hosted internally or stuff like that. I think we have a user that's actually doing that today.
Yeah, we do. Yep, that's how Ursa Major is running Omni on premises.
That's right.
Getting off their enterprise internal GitHub account.
Yeah, and we're going to be also adding SAML integrations as well. So that should cover a large portion of arbitrary and one-off authentication systems that people might be running. So
yeah, Sidero Metal is, like Andrew said, not going away. Our largest enterprises tend to use CAPI and Sidero Metal and have big investments in it, and it's a great solution for that use case. It's a overpowered, overcomplex solution for most small use cases, though, and Omni is a way better solution for them, and Omni will be a better solution for the large use cases, but it's not there.
Yeah, I think that's important to spell out here, is that we're not going to try and to maintain like a special product that's for the use cases that Sidero Metal is not great for. We intend on making Omni just as good at what Sidero Metal does. Sidero Metal will just be very scoped to Cluster API and, well, bare metal.
Yeah, so some of the things that Omni doesn't have yet is like the IPMI management and power management and things like that. So, and even Pixie booting, Omni doesn't have that integrated in yet, like Sidero Metal does, but coming soon.
Right. Well, and technically, you could Pixie boot today a machine, however you see fit,
and not integrated like Sidero Metal.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, right, Steve? Because as we've seen, larger site corporations usually already have some Pixie boot integration systems, so they often are like scratching their heads, wondering, how do I integrate another Pixie solution on the same network where we also have other needs? And so with Omni, it won't be a strict requirement. You could run it yourself, and as Steve said, over time we will offer a way to run it more like Sidero Metal with an agent that can handle all the power management for you.
Yep. Related question. I mean, yeah, so we're not deprecating the cluster API product, which is Sidero Metal. I would say it's true there's been less focus on that, certainly for the last year, because we've been busy building our SaaS product because as a company, we need to survive. We have really good adoption of Talos Linux and Sidero Metal, but the number of companies that are paying us for the support is pretty minimal. Whereas the SaaS product, we already have more paying customers and it hasn't even launched yet. So that's good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hosted CP.
Does that mean having a single control plane node? So what that means is we will actually run the HA control plane nodes for you in the background. You won't have to bring any machines dedicated to control plane nodes. So the only thing that you bring is machines that you would want to run your workloads on. To get geeky and nerdy about it, we're looking at using something like KubeVirt under the hood within the SaaS to be able to spin up VMs on the fly. And then there are ways within Kubernetes where we can actually hide the control plane so that you guys don't even need to see them. Every machine that you would see when you do something like kubectl get nodes would be your machines. You just know that you have an HA control plane out there somewhere, and that's left up to us to manage for you.
So hosted control planes wouldn't work with the on-premise Omni because
it could. So a lot of the tooling that we're building out for the SaaS, we actually we intend on actually releasing those eventually once they're ready for public consumption. Right now they work great obviously for our SaaS, but there's nothing stopping us from releasing those, and then people can do exactly what we're doing with our SaaS and run that just themselves. And for what it's worth, we're using Kubernetes obviously with Talos under the hood, and you're going to see a cool talk later about Talos on Talos. We're doing something very similar, I would say. But anyways, yeah, you're going to be able to potentially use the same things that we're using to run our SaaS today. So it could. The short answer is we're not sure 100% just yet, but I can definitely see us working that in to make it work for on-premise as well.
Yep. And yeah, there has been less development on Sidero Metal while we got Omni out, but I think we're close to cutting a release of the next iteration of it. Correct, Andrew? Yes,
we're, I think, going to be coming out with 0.6. There's some really great PRs that have been made. In fact, one of them, isn't people who made those PRs. I see them in attendance today, adding more around the SM BIOS information. There's definitely bug fixes that need to be made. And, admittedly, we've been a little bit busy building this SaaS so that we can, as Steve said, stay around. And it's been successful so far. But Omni will definitely be getting bug fixes.
Sidero
Metal would be getting bug fixes. I would say that when it comes to features, we would be a little slower, probably. To be honest, I feel like we've kind of reached a peak with it, and that's.
Yes, I mean, Sidero Metal's in a good place. It's used by huge enterprises like Nokia and Equinix, and they use it and like it. And there's not a whole lot of feature requests coming in that, because a lot of the development also happens on the CAPI side upstream, so things come from there too.
Yeah.
This is a good question.
How to be sure control plane secrets are safe?
Yeah, how do we trust us as a SaaS?
Yes, that is a great question. And actually that is, I would say, one of the foundational questions we asked ourselves when we started to build the SaaS, because one of the things that I've always not liked about existing solutions is that you have to sort of hand over the keys to the kingdom to whoever is managing it. And obviously as a company that is focused on security, that's not something we're very happy to do. So what we've done from the beginning, we've been working with a really great security engineer who's been helping us design Omni in such a way that we actually won't be able to get access to anything within your clusters, within your account. We're working on things like using YubiKeys for authentication, stuff like that. Our idea is to run Omni eventually in something like a secure enclave where we can actually attest for your instance of Omni that it is the version that we think it is. And there is no way for any of our engineers. And if we do need to build in ways for our engineers to do things, say for disaster recovery and whatnot, we can look at ways of doing like some type of shared key system where multiple engineers need to agree at one time that we're going to do something. So we will definitely be looking closely at how we as a SaaS can remove ourselves from the whole security story as much as possible and make it technically impossible and not just, you know, a handshake and we promise type things, you know.
We are still working. We still have a CRADA in place with Joint Special Operations Command, and we are still working to try and get STIG defined for Talos. We implement the Kubernetes STIG now, and the operating system STIG is wheels are in motion. As anyone that's worked for the federal government knows, the wheels run slowly. But they are in motion.
There's one more. Oh, sorry.
Similar question. We do it like we have an SBIR grant in for FIPS compliance. And if Talos gets FIPS compliance, you know, that would then be an option with Omni.
Yeah. There is one more question I think we might have missed. A couple up. It's with hosted control planes, could you install custom infrastructure onto it, such as Flux CD or Crossplane? That's a good question. There's nothing. The answer is to be short about is we're not sure yet, right? Our goal immediately, at least, is to solve that problem of having to bring three different servers for bare metal for every cluster that you need. But I do think that we should strongly consider allowing things like that. Obviously, it may require that those VMs are a little more powerful, so we'd have to find ways to make that work from a business point of view, but I would say we're open to it. It's hard to tell at this moment. Yes, Intel SGX is something that is actually being worked on. You'll see the CIVO folks talking today, and they're working on Intel SGX with Talos. We're looking at things like AWS's Nitro Enclave, using HSMs. Exactly. You're exactly right. That's what we'll be doing.
All right. Well, we're just about at our time, and this being our first conference, we're trying to keep it on schedule as best we can. So in the 2 minutes, there's a session coming up with mynewstext.com about how they migrated from a managed Kubernetes platform onto Talos in-house Kubernetes platform. So everyone should switch over and go join that session and go hear David Beckeus, whose name I'm probably mispronouncing. And then we do have a Q&A session with Sidero Labs, so you can get me and Andrew and Andre and Spencer and hopefully some of the other engineers showing up in that is in some period of time, which I don't have the schedule in front of me. I think it's about 2 hours. So that
sometime today, I guess.
I think it's in like 2 hours. We got a whole bunch more question and answer sessions, and then we got more sessions later on. So for now, thanks everyone for showing up. 156 people. That's pretty cool. Wow,
very cool.
Right now.
Yeah.
And let's all go listen to David and some of the other cool sessions. Nokia, Amazon. I'm stoked on how this has turned out. So
yeah, I'm super excited.
Awesome. Well,
all right.
See you all in a bit. Thanks, everyone.